speaker would be Mr. Arastoo Khan, Chairman of Islamic Bank, Bangladesh Limited. Mr. Khan serves as the Secretary to the Government of Bangladesh in the Planning Commission and Chairman of the Islamic Bank Limited. He's also the Chairman of the Advisory Board of Building Bangladesh. Sir, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would like to thank UNDP, the United Nations Office for the South-South Cooperation, and definitely Yankee Law Firm. It bears testimony that the Yankee Law Firm is a private firm and supporting this kind of thing. It's a good initiative, I think, from my side. I would like to congratulate that company. I would like to put things into perspective. Between World War II and the end of the last millennium, about 50 years, the aided architecture was different. It was dominated in a bipolar world where led by the Soviet Union and United States, where development aid was given less for development and more for wooing in more and more countries within the fold of these two groups. And then you see also the non-aligned group. That's another force that comes into play. But with the end, with the end of the Soviet Union in the late 90s, the whole architecture dramatically changed. It fundamentally changed and gave way for new thinking, which is also marks the beginning of UN-led Millennium Development Goal that was given, and that is where actually we see that people were able to have some targets, some goals, and also measurability. If you can measure something, you can manage. It's very important. So in Bangladesh, this time we have done pretty well on that card. And the next September, actually, Bangladesh is launching its SDG tracker. It's an online software that will track on and monitor. This is a good thing that I think it would be helpful. Now, financing this MDG was something that was not thought about. And 2 years later in Monterey, we actually thought about how to finance. Things were much better in Monterey than in Addis Ababa. World was a much better place then and not now. You see the war in the Middle East, European Brexit, the security issues in Europe that's happening. So these are not really very good things. And the traditional donors are not in money. Actually, money has flown out of their hand to somewhere else, and they should be more responsible in that. So Monterey came out with some suggestions. One was mobilizing domestic finance. Mobilizing domestic finance is very important. Give me my example. In finance ministry, I served about 10, 12 years. Our first trillion taka is our unit. First trillion taka we did in 36 years. We reached that trillion taka budget of the government. In next 4 years, we reached our second trillion. In next 2 years, third trillion, and we are now touching $4 trillion budget. I'm trying to say the galloping speed by which domestic resources have been mobilized, mind you, keeping our budget deficit less than 5% at all times. So this gives the huge impetus that we see in terms of getting mobilized domestic financial. And at one point of time, our foreign aid was like 7.5% of GDP. Now it is less than 1.5%. So this is also a factor where our dependency has shifted from foreign to ourselves, which is doing very good. Other thing that Monterey found out was external debt then to FDI. A lot has been talked about, and the private sector flows. Then ramping up industrial and financial technical cooperation was a thing. International trade as an engine of growth, that is another thing. Aid for trade, how we can. And then the issue of scaling up South-South cooperation. And in the Paris aid effectiveness meeting, and also in Accra agenda, all these things always tried to bring in more and more other resources how could be channelized. Now, in Southeast Asia, you have done very well with John Foster Dulles' the scare that of what is called the falling dominoes, and hence the CR2 was formed. And after CR2 turned out to be a hoax, and in 1967, 65, 67, ASEAN came into being, and ASEAN was hugely successful as in integration. Your earlier efforts, ASA, Mafilindo didn't work, but when it was ASEAN, it worked very well. Your intra-ASEAN trade is huge, about 35%. And if you add the +3, it runs to around close to 50% of trade, which is phenomenal. Now, if I turn my face towards our part of the world in India subcontinent, we have done well. We have a SARC called SARC organization that was done at Bangladesh, played a very key role in organizing it. But the intra-ASEAN trade is still less than 7-8%, very low. This is another reason is that is something called historical animosity that exists between two major players, Pakistan and India. They don't talk to each other, let alone trade. This is one thing. Geographical determinism is very important. India's position is India is close to all its SARC members, but others are not close to each other. As a result, India's trading, it's kind of an India-centric trade that takes place, where India as a larger country benefits and other countries do not benefit from each other. This is a point that came to my mind, which did not really work. So then came the issue of looking east. You know, the BIMSTEC, that is an initiative somebody pointed out, like the Germans did the Ostpolitik, looking towards the east during Willy Brandt's time. So, however, we see a lot of cooperation coming up, particularly in terms of investment from India. We have the first dollar trade that we have, credit line that we had, and then the second credit line we have now. Then China is also financing, is committed to finance about $35 billion over several years. Russians are building nuclear power, so these are there. But the fact that the CSOs used to say the neo-colonial tool imposing political conditionalities on the recipient countries does not hold. That holds true, while at the same time the solidarity that is coming from South-South cooperation is also, I'm not sure to what extent, because we see that 80% of the procurement of these countries financing India, Soviet Union, Russia and China, 80% is it has to be, these are all tied loans, okay, and the softness of the loan, the grant element is much lower. As a result, and if the price is dictated, that if Chinese embassy in Dhaka says you buy from that company, that 100 companies in China, but I have to buy from that, I should be given some kind of option to find out a better company from within China. But that's when I used to sit in the purchase committee, we pushed it, and I think we are close to the point where we can choose our own Chinese suppliers. There are many companies in China who do very well. We can buy from there, not get dictated about. Anyway, so this is an issue of higher cost, and the choice of suppliers is something limited, unsold equipment sometimes dumped into. So these are, we have to, when we take this loan, we have to think about the value for money. That's very important. PPP, it has done not very well in our country, but we are doing well over time, because it takes some time, and by this time we have certain incentives also, like PPP office has been created, a PPP law has been enacted, and about $325 million since 28 we are putting in the budget for certain factors like project preparation, support for appointing high quality transaction advisors, viability gap financing, those kinds of things have been there. So of late, quite a few projects are taking off. I'm getting a signal that I should stop now, but the challenges of PPP are there, and, as I suggested there. And good thing that has come out, particularly with the support from UNDP in Bangladesh, we have an alternative investment arrangement where we are coming, it has become quite a popular concept, and UNDP and UNCIF particularly is bringing in private investors from China, Hong Kong, who will support Bangladesh in social impact investment financing. So we have a fund about 100 million, so they have kind of, we have written an MOU where we could be getting some financing, which is very good thing. Money is not very important, but the beginning of a fund and we are expected to launch in next month in New York. So that is on this happy note, I would like to conclude my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. So thank you for bringing the subject into perspective, not only from historical perspective, but also from the perspective of domestic resource mobilization, from the perspective of regional and sub-regional mechanisms, also the geopolitical dynamisms. Yeah, thank you. And all this, I guess, will boil down to very concrete questions that we